So now we just got to tweet it out that going live on YouTube. Bring all your bad takes and let's discuss them. Because there is a ton of bad takes. Just absolutely terrible takes. Because people are so desperate to cling to their narratives that they can't even think outside the box when the situation demands that they do so. So, we got to get Chad up here. I think everything's working good. Hey, Jonathan Uval, how you doing, man? How are things today? Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me okay? Can everybody hear me okay? As people start piling in the door. I don't need to look at this right now. I'm trying to figure out how to lay everything out on one screen so that it's actually working. I need more experience with live streaming. I can tell you that. 5x5. Let's have a sip of coffee. Dedicated to the truth and the pursuit of truth. And I'm not trying to virtue signal when I say that. You know, I'm sitting here off camera. I was hanging out with my kids, doing a couple things, and I'm just thinking to myself, how much simpler life would be if I could just lie all the time. If I could, and I don't mean that people are lying, but if I could lie to myself. Not just lie to the world, but lie to myself about the way things actually are and what's actually happening, and not see the things in front of my eyes and have the capacity to hold on to a narrative. It's like, you know how easy life is? If you can just pick up your Conservative Party flag and you wave it, or you pick up your Trump flag and you just wave it, or you pick up your Harris flag and you wave it, or you're just pro-Carney, you got a team, you got an objective, and you don't have to concern yourself with any of the facts. Basically treating politics and the world and existence and reality as though it's sports teams. Do you know how much easier life would be? I mean, to be brain dead. I'm incapable of that. I can't do it. Sup, Paul? Red Ghost, the country has gone to hell in a handbasket. Google Gnome, hearing you well and clear. Hello, Frank, from your favorite place, Ontario. You know, I've said some bad things about Ontario in my time, but I'm not talking about a lot of the people, and I'm not talking about the place. It is a beautiful province with a lot of majesty. And there's seldom a day that goes by that I don't miss some geographic feature about Ontario. But the politics and the BS, you know, everybody wants to talk about ostriches, this universal farm, which is a terrible thing, an ordeal that's ongoing right now. But it's not the first time. You know, and I've been talking about other things, and I've indicated in my videos that September was going to be an odd month. And it is. I think the oddness is over now. I still have, I think the problems that I've faced, not problems, I don't want to overstate it. The convalescence, I think, is past the point where I have to worry about it affecting my video work. But I digress. Years ago, let's actually do it right now. Let's dispense with this first. We're going to, there we go, we got a window. And I'm on the wrong side. I hate being on that side. We're going to go over here, and we're going to type into Google the name Montana Jones. And this is in relations to that ostrich farm. Do you guys know who Montana Jones is? Have you ever heard of Montana Jones? Not the cartoon character. None of this. None of this. Okay, I guess we got to go further. Wow. Back in the day, you used to get Montana Jones and sheep. All right. So this is way back. You got to go back to November 28, 2016. This is my old friend in Ontario. We used to set up a stall beside each other at a farmer's market that I ran. They killed her sheep, and it was a huge thing. The CFIA said that her sheep had come in contact with a sick sheep once upon a time in Alberta, I believe it was. And the only way they could know if those sheep were sick or not is if they killed them, cut their heads off, and tested the carcasses, tested the actual severed head. It was the only way to know. So even though the sheep exhibited no signs of being sick, the CFIA said, hey, we're going to come in, and without compensating you, we're going to slaughter your whole herd. We're going to test them to find out if they were actually sick. And none of them, of course, were sick. And it was this whole thing. The sheep were stolen one night, and then they were delivered back, and it was this whole thing. We did fundraisers. I was there. I was one of the I can't remember what the tier of donor was, but we didn't have a lot of money at the time, but it was a very worthwhile cause. Michael Schmidt was involved. If you don't know who Michael Schmidt is, Michael Schmidt Milk. Hopefully that gets us. Yeah, Michael Schmidt. I spelt his name wrong, but this is, again, January 2010. This is the same sort of thing. This guy was selling raw milk, and he came up with a share scheme to get around the regulations because he wanted to just sell his milk. And so the CFIA stuff is part of an ongoing saga and an ongoing story. It probably deserves its own video, but it's an extension of what the CFIA has been doing this entire time. And under both parties, under conservative governments and under liberal governments, it's kind of funny because you get this, there's people who have this caricature of what liberal women look like. And they're all like, 40-something anti-vaxxers. Like there's this whole profile that develops. And the liberal government has done nothing for the organic movement. They've done nothing for, nutraceuticals or the movement towards, actual preventative medicine, nutrition, all this other stuff. The CFIA is regulated by the federal government. This whole thing, this thing with the ostriches and that poor farm, they're caught in the crosshairs of this regulation that's well over a decade old. And until one of the major political parties that's vying for election at the federal level or one of the provinces decides to leave, this is just going to keep going on. Animals that aren't even sick are going to just keep getting slaughtered and seized, and people are going to keep getting ruined because the federal government in this country is out of control. So it's not that I don't care about universal farms. I do. It's live streaming right now, and there's a lot of people watching developments there, waiting for those ostriches to get seized. And unfortunately, I think it's going to happen, just like with those sheep. All the fighting that was done and all the protesting. I mean, that was 10 years ago almost. And we're still here, a decade later, with the same government dealing with the exact same problem. And meanwhile, there's all this other stuff going on in the world. And so I put out a video today about Charlie Kirk and the assassination. And I can't believe that people are so desperate to cling to narratives that they can't believe the evidence of their eyes. First off, the comments section is often, every time I talk about this, they're full of people mentioning the plate armor he was wearing, or mentioning the Kevlar vest that he was wearing, or the body armor that he was wearing. I swear it's all bots. I swear it's bots, because there was no body armor, period. Confirmed by his team, confirmed by everybody. Charlie Kirk himself is on the record as saying he would never wear one because he was trusting in the Lord to protect him and use him to his purpose, which arguably he did, right? Even past the end, there's a purpose that's being fulfilled here. There was no body armor. In addition to that, you can see his nipples through his t-shirt. He's not wearing body armor. This magical plate mail that everybody's invoking doesn't exist. It never existed. And then we're talking about, and that's in addition to the magical bones. This idea that any round fired by a 30-06 could be magically caught in soft tissue so that the bullet can be magically found. Or this idea that what you're witnessing with your own eyes, like, I don't know if the video is still out there, if it's been censored or removed or whatever, but like, as it was happening, you could see the whole thing. And it's crystal clear. There's a blowout of blood on the left side. Like, it's an exit wound. It's an exit wound. Anybody who's ever shot anything, anybody who's ever hunted, Marines, ballistics experts, do you realize what you're doing? You think you're supporting Trump. You think you're supporting the FBI. You think you're supporting this clean-cut thing because you want to see the left get dismantled. You want to see Antifa being a terrorist organization. You want to see your enemies being persecuted and destroyed. I get it. And I'm with you to a point. The far left is the most radical element in our society right now. They're in control here in Canada, and they're fighting for their life in the United States against this. And everybody wants this focus, this energy to get channeled into dismantling them. But the truth is staring us right in the eyes. There's no way a 30-06 does what you see. There's no way. And I showed today. It's so crystal clear. Entry wound, exit wound, shooter comes from the right, somewhere on the right. I don't pretend to know where. I don't pretend to know who, because at the same time, I get a message. I've actually had emails, but I've also had messages from people saying, I'm covering up for Israel because I won't just come out and say this is a Mossad hit team. I don't know who did it. I have no idea. I think there's a lot of people who might have wanted this guy dead. He couldn't be blackmailed. He was as clean as it gets. He had a clean family. He had a clean bill of health. He couldn't be bought, even though he had donors. He was willing to lose millions of dollars to include Tucker Carlson in his events. And he couldn't be blackmailed. He couldn't be Epsteined. And there's a number of people, and I don't know if any individual one, I don't know. But there's a whole pile of people who would have motive to get rid of him because this guy had Gen Z in his pocket. He was earning them. He was shaping the future. The youth is everything. You have to understand in this game, this political game, this sociological game, this cultural game that all these people are playing, the only thing that matters is future minds. That's why there was the Hitler Youth. They had to be programmed. In 1945, with Germany completely defeated, the ideological champions of Nazi Germany, the people who would still do the Nazi salute when Hitler spoke on the radio in his last radio address, were the young because they were the most indoctrinated. It's a lesson as old as time. That's why they're after the universities. That's why they're after your high schools. That's why they're indoctrinating your kids into this malignancy, this ideology, this gender nonsense at a younger and younger age. They're getting their hooks into the future. The future is where the battle is, and the future is embodied in your children. And what was Charlie Kirk doing? Pardon my French, but he was fucking things up. In a big way. Because Gen Z's changing. Gen Z wants to change a direction. Gen Z doesn't want to be ruined. And Charlie Kirk was speaking to them and he was giving them a platform. Not just the people who agreed with him, but his political, social, and cultural enemies. And he sat there, disarmed, completely unviable. Beyond the reach of the Jeffrey Epstein honeypots. He was a danger to a lot of people, which is why I say, I don't know who. But it certainly wasn't Tyler Robinson at 160 yards with a 30-06, which should have blown his, like, do people understand? If a round of 30-06, even if the grain weight of powder was cut in half, it's still going to blow a hole in the side of the soft tissue. Like, it doesn't make any sense, folks. And you can see in the video I put out today, I mean, go watch the first 2 or 3 minutes and then come back. This live stream will be here forever, at least until, something happens, YouTube or whatever. But you can see the entry, you can see the exit, you can see the left side of his neck bulge out, and then you can see the bullet pop out, and you can see the hole, and then the blood splatter happens, and it's just, there's a 30-06 can't do that. And so they're invoking magical bullets and magical bones and vests that don't exist, and people are so desperate to cling to their narratives. I'm not, man. It's so easy. It would be, for some people, it's easy to just go along to get along. They want to present themselves as though there's some kind of alternative voice, that they're out there for the truth, that they're actually in the pursuit of things, but really they're just playing politics, and they're doing it on YouTube instead of doing it on CBC or CTV or any of the other mainstream networks. Admittedly, we don't have right-leaning voices in the mainstream media, but we do have right-leaning voices in the alternative media. But a lot of these guys, a lot of these people, they're not all that brave. They're establishment moving their way into a space called the internet, which is about the free flow of ideas. Like, there's been this liberation of sorts ever since Elon Musk bought Twitter, where we can now speak again, online at least. There's all kinds of governments in the world, including my own, which are trying to pass laws that will curtail speech. Conversations like this, or the ability to say that men are men and women are women and you can't change back and forth, and all these different things they want to stop us from saying. It'd be so easy to just play the game. People talk about, monetization on YouTube. If I did that, I would have to play the game. I'm not playing the fucking game. I'm just going to let myself flow today. I might swear a little bit because I'm incredibly frustrated with people who have been with me for years now, and at every single turn where I unleash something that's coming, or something, I shouldn't say, it's not even me unleashing it. I don't want it sounds too ego-driven, but it's not. It's like I see something coming, or I see something that's happened, I'm trying to figure out the truth of the situation, and I get these doubters who have been with me this whole time, and they're just like, you're wrong on this one. We'll see how it ages. All I know, the one thing that I know for sure is that the bullet that they say did this cannot do what my eyes see the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk doing. And beyond that, it is speculation. Let's just read the comments, see if there's any bad takes in here. How far up do I got to go? Hey, Frank from Fraser Valley. Hey, Barbara, Viracocha. Hello, Frank. Much love and respect, my friend. Also, Ontario sucks. Glad I left. But yes, it is beautiful. It is beautiful. I miss the forest all the time. The hardwoods, the oaks, the maples. I miss it. I really do. The cherries. Even the sumacs. Hell, stinging nettle. There's no stinging nettle where I live, which is just... I can't believe I miss stinging nettle, but I do. I used to eat it. You know, you can take a stinging nettle leaf, and you hold it from the back, and you fold it over, and then you fold it over, and then you rub it a little bit. It'll get rid of all the barbs. And then you eat that. You can make soup out of it, too, but it tastes just like cucumber. It's quite good for you. I miss just eating stinging nettle. Hey, is it true the USA offered to take the whole herd? Have a great day, Mr. Vaughn. I don't know anything about that. I mean, I don't know. There's no mechanism for that. I mean, it's a nice thought, I guess. Better than killing them off. But, I mean, it's just the federal government in this country is out of control, and the CFIA is one of those branches that's out of control. There's no reason or justification for this, but their procedure, the letter of the governing documents that spell out what their mandate is, says they have to do this. So there's a bunch of bureaucrats that are kind of caught trying to follow the rules. And the sad part is they're willing to kill this whole healthy herd just to prove the point, prove a point of authority. It's disgusting, and it's happened before. Frank, you haven't addressed the clear entry wound visible on Charlie Kirk's upper right chest. I haven't addressed the entry wound. I don't think I've seen an entry wound on Charlie's upper right chest. I think you're referring to the microphone falling off. I mean, I can look again. I am Joe Canadian. If you go and watch my video, I mean, the entry, maybe there was multiple shots, but from what I see in that video, there's only one entry and one exit wound that is of substance, and that's the one that struck the neck, going in behind the left ear and coming out the left side of the neck. I mean, I don't know how many former Marines and hunters and everybody else online outside of the big guys that could actually get some attention on this. Like, do you realize, this isn't to you, Joe, this is just in general, do you realize that the adoption of this 30-06 narrative from the front is actually setting up the acquittal of Tyler Robinson down the road? Because there's no ballistics expert that they'll be able to find that will be credible in court. The defense is going to be able to call 5,000 witnesses to basically say that what the prosecution is saying didn't happen. Like, you're setting up this guy's acquittal. That's if he lives to trial. You see, that's the problem. They did this, whatever happened was done before the eyes of the world. And there's a lot of people out there like myself. I'm not in a vacuum here. There's a lot of people that watch my channel who are a little upset that I'm talking about this sort of stuff. But look, it's the truth. It's what it is. And it's very consequential, because if the Trump administration doesn't get to the bottom of it, if they don't alter their story as it sits right now, then you know they're compromised. And you know maybe the change of direction is just within the establishment, that there's a war over the direction, but they're still unified. They're still moving forward. Like, this is like an inflection point. But the fact is, with the ballistics that you're seeing, Tyler Robinson will get acquitted by any jury, which means to me, if this continues, he likely won't survive until trial. And I don't know how many other people would have to go behind him. I don't see any other outcome. I think he has to go. The whole world lies in the evil one. Sad. Probably true. Is the chat broken already? We're not even 10 minutes in. 20 minutes in, the chat looks like it's broken. Someone who can't be bought easily will always be a threat to the establishment. For sure. I have problems with fireworks at a memorial service. When did a light show become the norm? it's like a channeling of energy. The memorial service, with all of its positive sentiment and noble intent, a lot of people there for noble purpose, but it's capturing the energy, capturing the focus, and directing it in a certain direction. And unfortunately, what I see in the wake of that memorial is a lot of voices, like Zero Hedge, one of my favorite places to read, many other places. They're just moving on. They're not even really asking questions. This is, it's staring you right in the face, and we're moving on to dismantling the far left, which is what everybody wants. The right is salivating at the opportunity to finally stop the evil left, and I get it. I totally get it. But we're moving past something really important here, which is that what they say happened didn't happen the way that they say it happened. And we should care about that. We really should care about that more than anything. It's not 30-06 impossible, says Mitch. You're right. It's not. It's just not. Someone who can't be bought. Sorry, I already read that. The youth need to be taught history. Yes. First the ostriches, then the turkeys, and finally they will come for the common man's chicken. Now that's a crazy thought, but that's remarkably close to the truth. When I was doing farmers markets and doing advocacy for small farms, I remember running into, well, not only running into the dairy cartel, but I ran into the chicken cartel. And as I sit here today, I'm not sure if it's a nationwide thing. Odin, Nosferatu, interesting combo. Maybe it was just an Ontario thing, but there was quota on chicken. So you had to buy quota to be part of the chicken industry. And at first, you could have up to 150 birds, which you were allowed to sell without quota, but over 150 birds, you had to have quota, and they would destroy your life if you had one bird. I mean, there are people who rape children in this country getting lighter sentencing than people who would violate that quota. It's crazy. We enforce cartels in this country. We don't enforce criminal law. But I digress. You could have 150 chickens. You could raise them, and you could sell them. But you were not allowed to tell anybody that you had chickens for sale. You couldn't advertise it. You weren't even legally allowed to put a sign at the end of your driveway. It was like Freemasonry. Someone would have to come along to you, and they would have to say, do you have chicken? And then you could engage them in a conversation. And so we advocated for that, and we fought for that. This is before I was online. Like, I used to do advocacy way before I had a YouTube channel. I had a local thing where there was a gravel pit that was coming in, and they had everybody on town water when everybody was on wells, and I got involved with that. We did protests. I gave a speech. There was this chicken thing. There was when they tried to ban, they tried to, in the wake of Maple Leaf Foods, killing a bunch of people. I've had a lot of coffee today. Sorry if I'm talking fast. Killing a bunch of people with, I think it was E. coli, but I don't recall what it was. The government's response was, we have to regulate farmers markets, and we got to stop everybody from selling there unless they have a government-certified kitchen, which was financially unfeasible for so many people. And we advocated, and we met with the Minister of Agriculture, and we said, can you find an instance, just one, where we killed anybody, let alone made them sick? Can you find one? Just give me one example of farmers markets screwing this up, because I can give you example after example of industry doing it. And the government backed off. But back to chickens, we fought that 150 limit, and we got it expanded to 300. And I think that's as far as we got. We got it expanded to 300, but you still couldn't tell anybody you were selling them. You still weren't legally allowed to add. Like, if you put a sign on your market stall saying you had chicken, you risked everything by doing that because of the cartels in this country. So it's not far-fetched to say they will come from the common man's chicken. They've been trying to come for your chickens. They've been trying to come for your preserves. They're trying to come. They've been trying. This isn't even. It's not even a conspiracy. They've been trying to come for your supplements and your vitamins for like over a decade now, probably decades. But my personal experience is 2 decades of liberal and conservative governments trying to come for your supplements. And we fought it off so far. The liberals have been far worse. If that wasn't the round you, says that Tony fella, what do you think the round that hit was? I'd be speculating, but I mean, there's many that fit the bill that would do pass through. So like 5.56 Full Metal Jacket, it would do the trick. It would kind of comport to what we see. There's other candidates. I can speculate, but really what I want to stick to is the fact that what we're seeing does not comport with the official story. That's it. That's what I know. And we can talk about anything, but my stream is starting to lag a bit. I don't know. Can't do anything about that. I'm on Starlink. And, it's funny because for the last week and a half, my cell phone's been broken. I can't make calls on it. It's so weird. Everything works fine, but I can't get calls out. Range Day Bro put out a great video explaining new evidence on Charlie's assassination. Yeah, somebody mentioned that earlier. I checked it out, and I think it's on point. I mean, it's you're seeing he's seeing the same thing I am. He's seeing the same thing that many people are. We're not alone. It's just the biggest voices, and many among our following, are just so desperate to put this behind them so that we can get on with dismantling the far left. It's such a shame. They're willing to just call you crazy. I mean, I've got people unsubscribing. Like, I could give a damn. I don't care. Put me out of work. If everybody just stopped watching, my life would probably be easier because, I feel compelled. Like, I wasn't even planning to do a live stream today, but I felt compelled to come in here, and hopefully some of the terrible takes will show up in the chat and I can argue them into the ground because that's where they belong. Like a 30-06 can do this. And, maybe he was a reloader and he loaded less gunpowder, to just like a hole-in-one with a golf shot, just to perfectly place it in his neck. Just enough power to land it in his neck, just like a soft little shot. But at the same time, if that was the case, why the hell do we see such a vast concussive impact? His shirt's moving, his neck is billowing out. Make it make sense, folks. You can't. It doesn't make sense. If you're rational, if you're logical, if you're reasonable, if you care about the truth of your eyes, you can't make it make sense because the shot didn't come from Robinson's gun that killed Charlie Kirk. Period. It's that simple. It didn't sound like a large rifle. Hard to tell if it was just courtyard echo. Well, that's the other thing about the courtyard is it changes the acoustics. But I've seen some sound analysis that you hear the crack and you hear the distinctive sonic, not sonic boom, but sonic crack. Like it's a high. There's high power. There's at least one high-powered shot going on, but it sounded suppressed. Could have been suppressed. A 30-06 is effing loud. It's also very powerful. Like, think about this notion that Turning Point put out. Turning Point, Charlie's organization put out. That he's just got magical, super healthy bones. So the bullet came in, grazed his collarbone, deflected up, caused all this blood damage, but then just sort of landed in the soft tissue and didn't penetrate. And it's these magical bones. Okay, fine. Let's pretend for a minute that the magical bone theory is real. So you're getting shot with a 30-06 and you have magical bones that a 30-06 can't penetrate. Okay, all right. But you have to transfer a vast amount of kinetic force from the bullet to the collarbone. So Charlie should have been thrown back. And at the very least, if his bones are powerful enough to slow that bullet down, because it's not just deflection. It's like the bullet has to come in, and enough of the force has to get dissipated on his thin collarbone, which people break all the time, dissipated to reduce the amount of force enough to leave the round lodged in his neck. And if that's the case, then that force has to go somewhere. That's physics, which means he should have been thrown back a lot further, or there should have been, as the bullet came in and flattened itself, as it would have to do with that much kinetic energy, it would have to flatten or it would have to fragment, and you still end up with his head blown off. And that's not what we see. It's not what we see. And I can't make myself lie about it. And I don't want to be silent about it because this is a moment in time where it's going to prove the sincerity of the Trump administration. Now, you might say that that's already been done and over with the whole Epstein thing and the cover-up there. It's clear cover-up of everything related to Epstein. And it sucks, and we don't know where it's going to go. We don't know where this is going to go. I'm not willing to put nails in the coffin of the Trump administration just yet. But if this story stands, if this is what they give us, if this is what Patel's FBI sticks with, then you know it's only a battle within the establishment over direction and modality. And it could be that Trump is very sincere as part of that establishment and wanting to kick out illegal immigrants. That seems to be very, very obvious. You know, this is another thought that occurs to me when it comes to the Trump foreign policy and what I still think is on course to be this neo-Monroe doctrine, which is a focus on North America, Fortress North America, a focus on South American foreign policy, and a potential extrication of America from the old world's political problems in this new multipolar world we're coming into. It makes a lot of sense. The whole thing with Venezuela and Maduro and blowing up boats, I think that's a very clear directional signal. But the point that I was initially going to make is we talk about Canada as the 51st state. Everybody talks about Canada, the 51st state. I think we need to reframe Israel as the 51st state and Canada as the 52nd state in this conversation, because I think that's a linchpin in the Trump foreign policy, is to let Israel take care of the Middle East and deal with things there while America and the empire tries to save itself in this new Monroe doctrine and focuses on North America and South America. But we'll see. It certainly looks that way. It certainly looks like we're heading in that direction. Good afternoon. We're not allowed chickens in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. You know, before I moved to Saskatchewan, I gave some thought to New Brunswick. I gave some thought to PEI. I gave some thought to Nova Scotia. There's various reasons why I came here. I'm super glad I did. There was a beautiful place in Prince Edward Island, though. There was still cheap real estate down there. I haven't looked in a long time because I don't need to. I'm not planning on moving. But, you know, if you were looking for cheap land or cheaper housing, because that's what people say, you know, you can't afford to live in this country. You can't afford to live in Southern Ontario. You know, you can't really afford to live in Eastern Ontario. You can't afford to live in British Columbia or some other major urban centers, but you still can afford to live in other places. You just have to be willing to move, and a lot of people aren't willing to be mobile. It's not conspiracy at all. How are all reliant on high inflation foods? Now we are all reliant on high inflation foods. Yeah, well, that's it too. You channel everybody into the industrial farming, industrial scale supermarket, Walmart, Sobeys commercialization of everything, and you deprive them of their ability to produce their own food. I used to say it's the same objective I have with video making and content creation. I used to say to people that used to come up to the farmer's market stall, they'd apologize. They'd buy a bunch of garlic off me, and they would say, "I'm sorry, I'm going to plant it, so I won't be a customer anymore." They would buy some plants intending to take seed off the plants, and they're just like, "Wow, I won't be a customer in the future." And I'm like, that's my goal. I want to put myself out of business. If I can get everybody growing their own food and I can't sell to anybody anymore, I've won. I'm jobless. I have to find something else to do. But if everybody becomes self-sufficient, my mission as a farmer, promoting that idea at markets, because it wasn't just about the farming and selling. When I used to go to the farmer's market 2-3 times a week, that 4 hours, yeah, I was selling and I was moving, but I was also philosophizing. Anybody could find me. And it was awesome because people often did. It became a little dangerous towards the end in 2020 or 20, no, I think it was 2021 when I disappeared for the first time and I realized I had to relocate. Anybody could find me. They often did, and we would have these long conversations in between doing business and philosophize. And one of my core philosophies was the day that everybody is self-sufficient and my farm goes broke because I don't have any customers anymore, I have succeeded. My measure of success was not my commercial valuation, but how many people I could liberate from complete lack of self-sufficiency. Believe it or not, that's how it went. I still had to survive. I was still happy for every single sale. Every single beat that I sold enabled my life that I have now. Oh, the chat. Hang on. George Webb, investigator, Charlie Kirk's death on YouTube. You know, I just discovered George Webb. I've been checking his stuff out. I don't like to talk about other influencers by name. Maybe I need to change that. But like, I think you're better served to try and interview them and get them on air. And I haven't been ready for that. Like, I don't want to sit in front of a green screen for all my interviews. I want a different setup for that. And I'm having a really hard time building out that setup. Like, it's actually back there. It's going to take some time because it's, you only get to debut something new once, and I don't want it to be pretentious. I don't want it to be a space that I use, which creates some challenges. Shot from CK's right, angled downwards. There's a building there. That's Binks. Yep. Unified Grassroots is a Saskatchewan-based advocacy group focused on increasing provincial sovereignty and challenging federal authority. Out of nowhere comes that comment, Rose Fiddler. But it's true. It is. I wish Nadine hadn't have left when she did. I don't know what's going on with it now. I've thought about getting more involved with it, but for various reasons, which are linked to why September's been such a gong show on the channel. I haven't done that yet. We'll see. But it's a great organization. I fully endorse it. I've shared their petitions. They're looking for a discussion on how to make Saskatchewan far more sovereign. What I really wish is that Scott Moe and the Saskatchewan Party would get a little bit tougher. Instead, they're doing photo ops with Mark Carney and they're negotiating. It's like we're negotiating with the abusive partner. 150 years of abuse. Goes back to before Saskatchewan was even thought of as a province. 150 years, all the way back to Palliser. 150 years of abuse and misinformation. Every single premier of Alberta and Saskatchewan has been a federalist. Why? Quebec, with its approach, has done far better for themselves. Why hasn't the West tried that? It's a perennial question. So Kirk is Wolverine with an adamantium skeleton. That, you know what? That's if we're doing plausibility of official explanations and some of the spitball theories that have been regurgitated onto my channel, you know what, Mike? That's a perfectly valid one. He is Wolverine. Yep. Just as good as magical bullets and magical bones and vests that don't... I don't know if you guys seen on the video today and on the video yesterday, the amount of people who have never commented before coming in and mentioning body armor and a vest that didn't exist. It never existed. I know I've said it already and I'm repeating myself. There's no vest. Kirk refused to wear one. It's confirmed he wasn't wearing one that day by other people. And if you don't want to accept that, you just have to look at the video. You can see his nipples in his t-shirt. He's not wearing a vest. There's no plate. There's no deflection. The standard story, the official story, is a 30-06 round fired from that rooftop. And what we're seeing is the entry and the bullet getting stuck in soft tissue. You'd have to be mentally deficient. You'd have to have a broken brain to accept that story, or it's just too inconvenient to pursue for you, and it runs counter to your desire to just see the far left dismantled, and you don't really care who killed Charlie Kirk. You don't care about the truth. You don't care about bullets and reality and ballistics and physics and trigonometry. I can't do that. Can't get with you. I'm not a partisan. If I was an American, I'd be an independent all day. Blood is coming from exit wound. Any experience ex-hunter would. Well, absolutely, Rogue. It's like blood doesn't gush out like that from an entry wound. I don't like. You know what I first thought when I first saw it? We're talking within like 20 minutes or a half hour, maybe even sooner after the shooting. Like I saw it quick. Like the videos, like it was everywhere. You couldn't help but actually see the shooting. And I remember the first time I saw it, because the story, the official narrative was a shot from the front. I remember I kept running into a shot from the front within the opening hours, shot from the front, shot from the rooftop, front. And I thought, how high is this guy's blood pressure that an entry wound could gush like that? I mean off the charts. I mean, there's got to be more compression there than is in your water tank. It defies reason. It's an exit wound. And I thought, at first, and that was the other thing I thought, I'm like, okay, deflection. Even though I looked at the T-shirt, I looked at his neck, and like I'm remembering it because it's a shocking piece of video. Looking at it, I'm like, the way the T-shirt blows out doesn't make sense. The deformation, the way his head movement, it doesn't make sense. This was my initial reaction. It's just like, there's a lot going on there, you know? And I reserved comment for a while because I really wanted to analyze and see. I don't want to just idly speculate about who, because there's, you know, I got called an idiot this morning because I'm like, I won't just say outright that it's a Mossad hit team. I don't know that. I think it's a team. For sure it's a team. It has to be. There's at least 2 shooters. Come on. I mean, you know, even if you accept the official narrative, Tyler's on that roof, or there's a shooter on the roof. We see somebody jump off the roof. We know that something happened on that roof. But whoever's on the roof didn't kill Charlie Kirk. The theory of double distraction with the old guy and this current suspect makes sense. The text messages from him make no sense. You're right. You're right about that. Some guy jumps up and says, I did it, provides distraction chicken for the crowd. The university moves in, and just where I highlighted today that potential muzzle flash. We know the shot had to have come from the right. They come in and they pave everything over. They're doing work. I mean, come on, folks. Put that together. The guy takes time out to text. This is a smart kid, very smart, top of the class. And he decides to put in digital form. Like, I'm a rube, okay? I'm an uneducated rube. If I was engaged in some kind of conspiracy like that, I am not putting it on my phone. I ain't texting nobody about that. But not only does he start texting his transgender lover about it, his furry transgender lover, he transmits the details, all of the pertinent details that would support the official story. I'm not buying it. Recently, I had supplements refused entry by Health Canada, reason being importing prescription drugs. Yeah, that's another issue. You can't get stuff here in Canada, so people bring it in from the United States. Luckily, for you, mail isn't searched. Most of the freight traffic coming into and leaving the country isn't searched, so you can still get away with importing all kinds of stuff, but it's still illegal. 160 yards with a 30-06 between 1,500 to 1,800 foot-pounds. Mitch, yes, 100%, but let's pretend for a minute that you have the gunpowder weight in the round. It's even with a reloaded round that had less powder in the round, it is still inconsistent with everything that we see in that video. It is still inconsistent with the wound. There's no way to shoehorn a 30-06 round into his neck from the front. None. Patel knows it, because you know what? I talked about this yesterday when I highlighted the Explore With Us YouTube channel. It talks to all these psychopathic serial killers, and you learn about human nature, and I did this whole thing where I was talking about that. But the other thing that you'll find out is how average, ordinary police, forget the FBI, which is supposed to be a step above, how they investigate crime, murder, attempted murder, child endangerment, the forensic way in which they go about investigating average crimes. None of that shit was followed when it comes to Charlie Kirk. Absolute lack of curiosity. I mean, the basics of investigation. Crime scene was not secured. Evidence was tampered with at the time. I don't know, folks. Actually, I do know. I just don't know the whys and all the details. And if you're smart and you're shrewd, you're not buying it either. Frank, there are 2 conspiracies which I don't believe. There was a hologram of Charlie Kirk, but I know it's not. There's a conspiracy that there was a trap door. This is from Logan White. Yeah, I don't know. I've superficially seen that. That's not how holograms work, for one thing. It's not how holograms work at all, from what you see. The trap door and the understage thing, you know, I've kind of seen that the shot might have came up from underneath that big stage, because there is a whole area below him that you can't see. It's just the issue I have. I mean, I'm open to any idea, but you got to have entry and exit, like up here to down here. You got to get there somehow, right? How do you get there from below? It's really tough. Now, you do kind of see the concussive force maybe coming up from below and the way the shirt billows. But to me, it's everything that you see is explained by the force of the impact this way. Like it makes sense. It does not make sense from the front. To me, it doesn't make sense from below. But hey, let's see what people come up with. Reviewing, Megan Sky Phoenix says, reviewing the footage, you can see that someone tampered with the camera to Charlie's right immediately after the shot. Some speculate he took an SD card. So that's been addressed a couple times. That was a person that actually worked with Kirk. He apparently wanted to, this is the story, he secured the device and he wanted to pass the SD card onto the FBI before someone else tampered with it. And I mean, that's kind of confirmed that this is a person that was known to Turning Point, known to Charlie Kirk. There's no reason to rush to the conclusion that it was malintent. There was a lot going on. People were stealing, in the midst of this atrocity, people were stealing hats and securing memorabilia because they just had to have a souvenir from the killing of Charlie Kirk. Like, that's some people's priority, Like, I'm just disgusted by the human condition sometimes. Like, and I'm, how do we awaken in people a call to something greater, to loyalty to something greater, the pursuit of something greater? You're worried about souvenirs in the midst of this? A 30-06 will go through 3/4 of an inch of miles steel at 100 yards. I have done it. That's the power of that rifle. Somebody mentioned George Webb, and I will say one of the videos he did, or someone did that he covered, but it was shooting 30-06 through 3 solid concrete blocks, and it splits them all in half. Like I talked about yesterday, shooting 7.62 or 308. That's a really powerful round. It's not as powerful as 30-06. And this is the point too, where people talk about maybe it's a reloaded round that had special characteristics. A magical bullet that had just enough hole-in-one capacity to just lob that round in there and hit a vital organ and then just lodge that bullet in his neck all miraculously. 308 has less powder. I've shot a lot of 308 in my time. It's my preferred round. People like their 5.56. I like my 308. And a 308 will go through a tree and still take a chunk out of a concrete block at 50 or 100 yards, probably from 200 yards. I don't have a lot of experience shooting through trees and fence posts into concrete from more than 100 yards. It's not the way the range was configured at the time, but it's a powerful round, that 308. 30-06 is far more powerful. You know nothing about ballistics, Frank. Stop pretending you do. Geeter done. Never seen you before, bud. First time you've commented, from what I know. I mean, I could check, but it's amazing how many of you newbies are showing up with stupid comments like this. Instead of saying, I know nothing about ballistics, why don't you present something? Present a counterpoint. Explain to me what I'm seeing. Make it make sense. Please, the comments are yours. There's no moderator to ban you. No one's going to stop you. What's your purpose, Geeter? Get at it. This may sound stupid, but do you think there was 2 shots, one from the Patsy? Yeah, I mean, he could have fired a blank, right? We're speculating now. There's no doubt someone's on that roof. It seems to me there's no doubt that someone on that roof, probably Tyler Robinson, shot a gun. But did he have blanks? Was he shooting blanks? Was the Patsy set up? In the text, they allude to him having an opportunity to take Kirk out, talking about having to pick the gun up and all of these things. If the official story is this wrong on one of the most pertinent details, which is what we see on video of what the bullet did to the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk did to him, then everything else that flows from that can likewise be questioned. Tribal sovereign savagery treaties override any lower common public, private, or inhabitant class law. Karen Ann Lucci McDonald says, okay, it's not SEAL Team 6 shit. Settle down at Grinch. I have no idea. I think there's drama in the chat. Geeter Dunn Honda, pretty much everything. Views are low, so he's jumping on the conspiratorial bandwagon, basically picking Charlie's bones. Get wrecked, Geeter. Just get wrecked. How about you just get wrecked? You're not saying anything productive. You're just spewing nonsense because you don't like facts. You don't like your narrative being countered. You want to believe. I don't want to believe. I want to know. I don't want to look like I'm right. I want to be right. I want to know what is right. That's the difference between you and me. You're low quality. I come a little higher. Geezer, you can disagree without impugning his motives and attacking his character. He could, but that's not why he's here. That's not why a lot of these new people are here. At all. I know why they're here. What you are seeing in the neck is in fact an exit wound, but likely just part of the rounder jacket. Not to say, okay, if it's part of the rounder jacket, how do you explain it being part of the rounder jacket? Are you invoking the magical bone theory, or are you invoking the vest that didn't exist? What are you invoking to get to that point? Because the official story has already said that both of those circumstances, the vest and I shouldn't say the official story. The official story is that there's no vest. There is no vest. I mean, that's the official confirmed thing. Charlie did not wear vests. And there's no way in hell a collarbone is that solid. Even though that's what Turning Point, claiming to have spoken to the surgeon, is claiming. That it's a magical, God-infused bone. Sure. There's clear video of the entry shot from his right. Yep, Honda, there is. There is. That's the one thing that it's the one thing that's incontrovertible. I just lost the chat again. Okay, hang on. I just got to scroll up and catch up here. I'm tagged all over the place. Forgive me. Do we know who's going to be the Jack Ruby for Tyler Robinson, says Racer Man? I don't know. But like I said, all of these people, including Geeter, are literally handing Tyler Robinson acquittal if it got to court. Because there's no ballistics expert in the history of the world. Well, okay. The prosecution will be able to find people to support this story. But the defense will be able to find thousands more who say it's bollocks. That's the key here. The guy will get acquitted at jury trial. So he can't make it to jury trial. Right? I mean, I don't want to, I hate making predictions. But I see a quandary because this assassination was done before the eyes of the world. And we can see, and there's enough people who will not be silent and they will not lie about what their eyes have seen, that there will be enough noise that cleaning this thing up is going to be a little bit more challenging than it was in 1963. It's not a buyback, it's a blatant the gun buyback is going to start in Nova Scotia. Yeah, it's a confiscation, for sure. I should address that in a video. But I mean, it's just this one thing's kind of just come to dominate because it's really important. But yeah, the Liberals are going ahead with seizing legal firearm owners' guns, and they're doing nothing about crime. Typical stuff. And most of this country still loves them. Or the NDP. Loves one party or another. Disgusts me. Certainly not the province I live in. Certainly not the province I live beside. It's certainly not where I am in this country. But unfortunately, we are outnumbered by millions of people who don't think like we do. Frank, we may be able to afford to live in some parts of Canada, but if we all moved to these places, we would have no jobs. Well, unemployment's high here. No, sorry, I shouldn't say that. Job vacancies are high. You don't have to go far to hear somebody crying about the fact that they can't find labor that speaks English. The cost of living is way cheaper. I know mechanics that are desperate for people out here. The amount of open vacancies for trade jobs is enormous, especially in electricians. My brother's an electrician, and he was telling me all about the number of job postings are just skyrocketing in the West. Can't buy it back if they never owned it. Yeah, it fell off the boat, sank to the bottom of the lake with a trigger lock on it, so it's legal. Who will turn in their legal gun for 30% of the actual value? People who are desperate for money, people who don't want to go to jail, people who are just law-abiding and want to keep something. I mean, I don't want to judge anybody for complying. I don't. People have a lot to lose. The only people the government is interested in harassing are the people that don't have criminal records. The rest of them, they just get to keep on committing crimes. It's disgusting. It's so disgusting. You inspired me to grow garlic on the Sunshine Coast. Sadly, I had to move before it was ready to harvest, but my friends were appreciative. Oh, brother Rogue. So before I left Ontario, I didn't know I was leaving Ontario. I didn't know I was leaving Ontario until January 7th or January 9th of 2022. That was when the decision was made. I had already planted thousands of garlic. I'd already invested somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $4,000 in compost and straw. I bought my straw for the year. I bought my compost for the year. I was busy right up until the moment it was decided. Planting that crop, and I left it all behind. And then subsequently, I've heard legends. People found out I left the crop in the ground, and there were people coming in there to harvest it and take actual seed from the farm and grow it out and whatever. My garlic is everywhere back in Ontario. I don't know if they still call it Northumberland, but I know it's everywhere. And it's a legacy that can't be tracked. Makes me happy to know that it's still out there, though. But I know the pain. I know the pain of leaving it behind. I really wish I could have took my land with me. You're talking over a decade of work, making it naturally fertile. We didn't use fertilizer. It was just compost and straw and what nature provided mixed into the land, and I could put anything I wanted in that land and it would grow. I never had to use sprays, organic, chemical, otherwise. The soil balance and the biology just took care of everything. And, I've been out here 3 years. I've grown very little except maintaining the perennials that were already here. And part of the delay, I've only got so much time. Between my family and doing this, there's only so much time. But another little piece that comes into play is the arduous task of trying to get that back, all that work. It's hard to start over. I get it, man. JK says, what were the chosen ones and Trump doing while everyone was shocked by Kirk passing? I don't know. Lost my pew-pew in a freak canoe accident. Sorry to hear about that, man. A lot of people lost a lot of guns, at least in the last little while. I miss living in Saskatchewan. I'd move back, but my daughter is here in BC, and I want to be closer to her, and she won't move to Saskatchewan. And that's, you know what, Brenda, I appreciate that. It's my own philosophy that when the time comes, if my kids move away, they have families of their own, that's the one thing that could get me to leave is I think there's a duty to follow the next generation. I mean, you don't necessarily have to bend over backwards, spoil them, cater to them, whatever else. But if you can be of assistance, if you can be of utility, you should be trying to pay that forward. And so I could see that. I could see following my kids where they go. Hopefully, maybe we build something here that they'll want to stick with because there's a lot of common narratives in society about kids. Once you turn 18, you got to boot them out. If you stay at home, you're a failure. There's all this stuff. There's all this pressure. And I got to say, I just don't buy a lot of it. I mean, maybe in the urban context, maybe in the context of a typical upbringing or whatever, but do you understand that multi-generational businesses, multi-generational farms, candy operations, manufacturing firms, they're successful, they're stable, everybody looks happy. And it's the key to economic freedom, multi-generational thinking. Families used to live under one roof. So I don't know what it's going to look like. Ask me again in 15 years, but I'm not looking for a typical outcome with my children. They're going to self-direct, and we'll see where I fit in with that. But I intend to help pay it forward. Frank, is there good pike fishing near you? I used to fish in Shell Lake area. Epic action. I don't know much about fishing at this stage in my life. I should get back into it. I do know that Tobin Lake, which is hour from here, hour and a half. I don't know. It's up there somewhere. World-class fishing, Tobin Lake. It was created by a dam, and apparently it's just world famous, Tobin Lake. Rumor has it there was a second shooter. Rumor is, yes. 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 We have to find the person who fired the bullet that killed him, because it wasn't a 30-06 coming out of a Mauser. He was wearing an audio wire that puffed out the shirt. No, Sandy, no. He might have been wearing an audio wire. He might have had he had an earpiece. He was wearing a necklace, but none of that explains what we see. None of it. Len Kopp says, be safe, Frank. I do what I can. It's up to the Lord how long I'm here. Where's the grassy knoll on the UVU campus? Sorry, going JFK route. Well, the grassy knoll's rooftop on the right. There's all kinds of spots where it could have came from. I showed a potential muzzle flash in today's video. What you need is a detailed investigation, not the sweep that we've had, the repaving, the sketchiness, no securing the scene, no detailed forensic investigation. Do you remember that at the very beginning, Patel came out and he said, we don't know who did this and we don't have him? Like, it actually took a little while for Tyler Robinson to turn himself in. So during that initial time, that would have been the time to lock down the site and do a detailed investigation like you would do with any other crime. Did you see that happen? Did I see that happen? Within minutes, let alone hours, of a crime like that being committed, like I said, watch Explore with us or any number of other YouTube channels that release detailed interrogations and investigative footage of individual crimes that occur across the United States and in Canada all the time, and you will see that the investigations all have a procedure that starts immediately. Did we get that here? I'm a conspiracy theorist. A team of 4 plus 2 drivers, maybe. He jumped off but had no rifle. Yeah, that was, he clearly had something. And he was, and I don't know if this is still part of the narrative, but he was supposed to have stopped and removed the gun barrel. Think about that. You're in the middle of a huge crowd. You're on a rooftop. You've already probably spent some energy in the sun to get up to the top of that roof. You're literally about to kill a man and throw your life away. And then after you fire the shot, you take the shot, miracle bullet, you nail it. With your absolutely steady hands, you then take a screwdriver and disassemble your firearm. You know how much adrenaline would be pumping through your body at that point? There's this thing called deer fever. I think it's called deer fever. Different people have different names for it. But even just shooting a deer for the first time can send people into almost convulsive behavior. Taking life is a big deal, right? It's a stressful situation for people. Out of curiosity, do you remember the last time the Canadian Navy was impressive? I'd say it was around the 1980s. I'd probably argue you have to go back before that. Honda says you're bang on. Kid confessed, open and shut case. No, Ben. No. Sent some screenshots to your email. I'll check them out later. Out of curiosity, last time, Delphix, I got you. Wow. But Canadian Navy, they did it. Wake up, sheeple. This is a Rogue Primate, because Rogue Primate and I have gone back and forth, and I think he's an honest guy. It wouldn't matter. 160, 180, 200 grain still makes a huge mess. Yep. Yeah, that's the issue. Still makes a huge mess. Not consistent with what we see. You would have had to map the ballistics of your rounds by powder weight. Yep. Tell me, Smitty, when you look at that video, what do you see? Tell me in the comments. Cash is not the lead investigator. He's the guy that goes to hearings. Okay, for sure. But the Trump administration is supposed to have come in on a message of transparency. Cash is Trump's point guy, right? So maybe I'm guilty of generalizing here, but if you have faith, which you probably shouldn't, but if you have faith in the Trump administration, then you have to believe that his appointees, this time round, 2016 was different. I remember 2016 very well because I very much supported the president then, before he was president. And you could very clearly see that winning the election was his focus. He wins the election, and then he gets in and he's got to make these tens of thousands of appointments, and he has to rely on people. And there was a lot of bad actors in his surroundings, and for the next 4 years, they tied him down pretty good. But now, with experience, he comes back into office, and these are his appointees. These are people that he trusts. And so if the thrust of the administration is transparency and honesty, then his people should be the ones spearheading it. Like, look, these guys have great big platforms, right? They can get in front of a camera at any time. They can hold a press conference, and every camera in the entire country is going to be pointed at them. Their words have power, and they can say whatever they want with those words. They can create change without passing legislation just by the power of the rhetoric that they engage in, the words that they share with the public. They have a sorcerer's platform, which is why I say Patel, why I say Bongino, why I say his appointees, the ones that are supposed to be leading the way into this new era of transparency. Bassomatic, Cash is the head of the show. He'd better start telling some truth. Really hope so. Wow, that is one powerful round. Yeah, it is. But the bullet just stayed in his neck. Got stopped by soft cartilage and skin. Ian Carroll, I don't know who, I think I've seen Ian Carroll's face. I don't know who he is. Has done a deep dive into where the shot came from, and he is right. I'll have to check it out. Tyler Robinson is the patsy. Yeah, I think so. I don't know so. I don't know what his relationship is to the entire conspiracy to kill Charlie Kirk. People say, don't go into conspiratorial territory, Frank. You're going to lose credibility on this. The conspiracy already happened, folks. It already happened. It killed this guy. That's the conspiracy. Not the people trying to figure out what happened. So Patsy, or unwitting victim, I don't know. I'd like to know. Why do I care so much? Says Squarish Link. Why do you care so much? How can you not care? It's a defining moment. This is like all the hope that anybody has about a different direction for this world, for a recognition that the unipolar moment is over, U.S. hegemony is at an end, and if we want our kids to be able to grow up in the world that isn't ruined by nuclear hellfire, we have to agree as nations that nations have national interests, and we have to come to a new balance. If you believe in the deconstruction or dismantling of the U.S. empire and a concentration on prosperity and a focus on rebuilding and North America's problems, if you believe in all those things, they hinge on this moment. Because the truth about this assassination that hopefully we will get in the coming days and weeks from the Trump administration, the story that they tell us, if it doesn't change, in addition to all the other things we see, which is Trump pushed the so-called Epstein narrative all the way into office. He pushed the Epstein narrative. And then all of a sudden we're told to forget about it, like it never happened. And we're called bad people, bad actors. He calls us all kinds of names because we just won't let this thing go. Probably because he's afraid of dealing with the fact that the Democrats likely indeed put bad information about him into these files, considering they were in their hands for years. And instead of dealing with that publicly and having a battle over it, he just wanted to bury the whole thing. Or it's much deeper than that, because Epstein is so tied to intelligence, both in the United States and other nations, the 51st state, that it just can't be talked about. I mean, that was the first big chink out of the armor. And if we can't penetrate the narrative around Charlie Kirk, then we can pretty much put our hopes up on a shelf and start making other plans, because the Trump administration will have shown its hand. That's my opinion. That's why I care so much, because this is a very defining moment in time. Because caring is human, well, that's the other side of it. That is the other side of it. Arnold Schmidt. One more angle of thought not yet brought to the conversation. Religion. Where did this event happen? What would be the loss of youth in that belief structure? Was CK's message strong enough to influence it? Absolutely was. He had the future in his hands. He was single-handedly changing where Gen Z was going to go. And that's what made him so dangerous, was control of the future, control of the young mind. That's one of the most valuable things ever. I got to pause just for 1 sec. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. And I'm back. Oh, wrong one. And I'm back. Continuing on. CK's message strong enough to influence. Yeah, so Charlie Kirk, you see, this is the thing too. One, the first step is killing him, right? For whatever reason, whoever did it. The second step is controlling the legacy. So he had all this energy. Gen Z in his pocket. Gen Alpha looking on. The future. And so now you have to control where that energy is, because if he was the focal point of the energy and you take him out, then that energy is released. You have to capture it and you have to channel it. And that's where I talk in today's video about another mass formation psychosis. This one, capturing that energy to suppress the far left. The far left's a problem. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that they got to be dealt with. But do you not see there's a problem here? Frank, I was quite impressed about how much you know about guns. Wish I knew half as much. I don't know everything. I just know enough. I discovered you on Clyde. Do something. You're awesome. Thank you, MC. Glad to have you here. It's fun watching Frank wake up. I've been awake for a while, man. The difference between me and someone else, para, is a lot of people like to say things as though they know them when they don't actually know them. And I'm not one of those people. I'm not here with breaking information or concocting some kind of grand narrative. I don't want to put myself up as knowing every single thing, because I don't. I'm not here to pretend. A lot of people want to do breaking news. They want to be the first on the scene. That's not me. My thing is like thinking about stuff and trying to figure out what is actually known, you know, being right as opposed to looking right, and trying to figure that out. I've been wrong before, you know, to err is human, but I think I've been awake for a while. Sammy Hagar says the world splits in two, Fortress North America and securing the Western Hemisphere. I have no idea why I should care what Sammy Hagar thinks. A rock guy. If it's the same guy. But hey, Fortress North America sounds like a great idea. How is the condition of the round? Moisture, shelf life, just saying, chance shot, aimed high, nerves, not trained, just saying. You're just saying. I keep saying that, just saying, just saying, just saying. You're not saying anything. You're just spouting words. The video shows an entry and an exit. Stretched skin, a hole. High-powered round. Sonic, not a sonic boom, but a sonic crack from a high-powered rifle. I mean, just saying. You're not saying anything. You're just throwing out idle speculations to cloud what we actually know, which is why I try to focus on what we know. And I try to do a little less speculating on who and what and where and why, and just try to focus on the official story's BS. The round that Tyler Robinson fired, whether it was a blank or an actual round, did not kill this guy. The plan is for us to be focused on this and not what is really happening. I don't know about that. You know, that's always invoked Jody, and I get it, but that's always invoked whenever anything happens. That anything that hits the news cycle is... We shouldn't be focusing on anything in the news cycle because we should be focusing on the things the news cycle doesn't cover. The thing is that the news cycle actually, it chases human attention. So like the news cycle is guided by what people are watching anyway, and it's guided by outrage. It's guided by a business model that's dependent on clicks and advertisers and all this other stuff. I think this is pretty important. I don't think we should dismiss it. Boxcar Philly. Sorry, Anton Chigurh. Oh, God. Loyal American viewer here. I love your show. That is a great movie. It's dark. It's dank. It is a curious examination. We're talking about No Country for Old Men. If you guys haven't seen it, it's a good flick. It'll make you think. It'll stick with you. It's one of the few movies in my life I've watched more than once. I may end up watching it again before I depart this world. But, and that is one of the most haunting villains you're ever going to encounter in cinema. I mean, you can find bloodier villains, you can find more demonstratively psychopathic villains, but Anton's psychopathy and the way it's portrayed is stands out. Oh man, I just lost the chat again. I'm so far behind is the problem. How's it going, Frank? Cole says. It's going. We're here. We're breathing. Loyal American viewer there. Anton, got you back. Good to have Americans with me. Frank, is it possible a professional might alter the bullet itself to reduce the velocity? Is that even possible? Again, it's possible, but it doesn't really matter what velocity the round fired from the front is coming in at. It's inconsistent with what we see. And there's a whole pile of concussive force that's unleashed on Kirk's body on impact. Like, everybody's trying to make this 30-06 round fit. The Occam's razor is to just get rid of it as the thing that killed him and start examining more realistic options. Ignore them, Frank. Can't, Reagan, I'm getting better with, or raging against the machine. I'm getting better with turning it off, but I can't ignore haters. I can't ignore bad counter arguments. They suck me in like you know how mosquitoes get drawn into those bug lamps that shock them to death? That's kind of me in bad takes. I'm guilty as charged. Reagan, yep, that's why I enjoy his commentaries. You're certainly right about the ballistics, said Frank. No stash Michi. Yeah, I mean, it just is what it is, man. It is what it is. The official story is full of holes. The Swiss cheese is jealous as Binks. It is. Free Alberta, I'm with you. The surgeon, a man of science suddenly converted. Well, no. The Turning Point public statement invoked God. The surgeon, which we're only getting secondhand word that they spoke to the surgeon said he just had super healthy bones. The densest bones he's ever seen. Sure. Yeah, the lone gunman story is BS. Anyone with eyes can see that. Yeah, it truly is. I think it will be a show trial, if we even get that far, man. Like the Grinch said that. It remains to be seen. I don't know how this can go to trial when... I guess you can fix the defense. I guess you can fix the entire thing. You can have a show trial. And the defense can decline because it's a confession. You never have any witnesses. He's admitted to the crime, so he's not entering a plea of not guilty. So he doesn't have to defend himself, so maybe we never ever get expert testimony as to the ballistics. I suppose that's a realistic thing that could happen. Is it too early to break out the bourbon? No, man, I'm still on coffee. And I got one of my children today. They're watching a movie. That's where I went off to run to renew the movie, but I'm not going to be able to do this for much longer because I feel guilty when we don't let them just sit in front of the TV. So go play some games or something, but I couldn't. I had to do this. Sadly, JFK Jr. wants Sirhan released and doesn't think he killed his dad. Well, Bobby Kennedy and JFK both have ballistics problems too. I mean, this is not a new problem. Public and political assassinations in the United States are as American as apple pie. I think Canadians on average have the most snobby attitudes in the world. We really think way too highly of ourselves. Yep. We're like the equivalent of a really frail man ranting and raving on the street corner. I don't want to get into it. We have a very high view of ourselves. We have a very overinflated ego, and we don't have enough stature to back it up. We write checks with our mouths that we can't cash. We have this belief in our healthcare system that we are not entitled to. We have this idea of sovereignty, which we're not entitled to. We gave away our sovereignty. The country gave it away in 1982. We don't have God-given rights. We have rights at the behest of government. They can suspend them whenever they want, and they can even be found to have wrongly suspended those rights, and nothing happens. No one ever goes to jail. There's never any consequences. The Liberals are still in power. They were found to have abused the Emergency Act, to have rode roughshod using paramilitaries on horseback to just run over unarmed civilians in the streets of Ottawa. They were found to be wrong. They were found to be culpable. Nothing happened. Trudeau remained prime minister. The only reason we're done with Trudeau is because his brand became so toxic, even the Liberal voter couldn't go for it. But the gullibility of the Liberal voter was proven because they parachuted a European in the name of Mark Carney, a central banker, one of the world's quintessential financiers, as the champion of the middle class coming in to save Canada from itself, from the evil Conservatives. Canada is not entitled to a high opinion of itself, but that's not going to stop us. Australia is banning machetes. That'll solve everything. Are you still growing garlic, Frank? You know something, man? The answer was almost no, but a miracle happened. An actual, well, maybe not a miracle, maybe a testament to the power of genetics, but so I still had some of my garlic. I didn't plant it last fall. I planted it the fall before, and I harvested it. How did this work? Doesn't matter. I harvested, and then it sat in a bag in my laundry room behind the door for 2 winters. So 2 seasons it sat there. And I finally went and found that bag because I was cleaning up, and I found this bag. It was underneath a bunch of winter gear in a box. And I opened it up, and I sorted it. And did you know 85-90% of that garlic is still viable? So I think I'm going to plant it. So the answer was almost no, but it's actually yes. Freddie garlic seed. Frankie garlic seed, Mark. Frankie garlic seed. Is the killing of Charlie Kirk a repeat of entertainment, only in a different version and at a different time in world history, like with John Kennedy? I'm not sure I would describe it as entertainment. I think there was a coup in 1963. And I think it's a much more subtle coup. It's not like a military coup. It's like a coup that has to be maintained by psychological operations. And it's been threatened numerous times. What we commonly call the deep state. With hundreds of eyewitnesses have my doubts. All of them will be intimidated into giving false testimony. I mean, a lot of the people in attendance were probably happy with the outcome. It wasn't like most of them loved Charlie Kirk. So what incentive? I mean, I ran into this where people don't want to provide their phones voluntarily because it might actually help the investigation. People are horrible. I mean, if you've seen, hang on, I think I got it right here. Yeah. I haven't verified this particular image. It's sitting on my desktop because I intended to, but there's what they did up for him, and then this is apparently what the raging lunatics on the left did to it. Like, This is the difference between order and chaos. This is the difference between love and hate. This is the difference between the two sides. You know, in spite of everything I've said, the right has not engaged in reprisals. They've engaged in prayer vigils and memorials. I worry that their energy is being harvested for maybe other nefarious intent and that we're not going to get the truth. But the fact of the matter is the body politic underlying both sides is of a fundamentally different quality. Why is none of the footage clear? Good question. There would have been cameras everywhere. Probably 4K. 4K capable cameras. I mean, I've seen a lot of good footage, but are you off X? Can't seem to find you. No, I'm there. It's at FP Vaughn and 3 eyes. FP Vaughn the third. You should be able to find me pretty easy, man. People are speculating about Erica Kirk. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Something's definitely rotten in the state of Denmark, for sure. He assembled before he made the shot. Is that the official story? Is that he assembled on the rooftop? Either way, doesn't matter. The shot that killed Kirk didn't come from that gun. Bodyguard was acting strange. Have you seen his actions, such as turning on his metaglasses, then moving his right? Yeah, there was a lot of movements, but, well, I shouldn't say but. These are people who have been identified by others that are familiar with Kirk as longtime associates of Kirk, from what I understand. We can speculate as to what that all means, but, I mean, I'd like to focus on the fact that the bullet ballistics don't make any sense. I can sink my teeth into that. It's very tempting to drift and start speculating, but and I wouldn't discourage anybody from doing that. It's just not where I see my role currently. 200 people watching, only about 18 likes. Yeah, I do stupid things. I stream in the middle of the day instead of the evening. Like, I have no actual proper influencer plan. People who do this as a business model do it much better than me. They offer all kinds of advice that I don't heed that is very sensible. They had no time to wait for an ambulance. My thoughts, this is Smitty. I asked him what his thoughts are. My thoughts are that this was a Mossad hit to rally financial and military support. Could have been, man. Could have been a CIA hit. It could have been a combo thing, like kind of like Kennedy, where I feel like a lot of people were in on the conspiracy to kill him. I think it's, again, like, I can't say firmly, but it is interesting that funding was getting pulled from Turning Point because Charlie was turning critical of the ethnic cleansing going on in Gaza, which is, a lot of people are really upset that I say that out loud as well in my own audience. I've received some hate mail and some things, but I don't know how you can, as a Christian or even just as a human being, whether you support Israel or not, I don't know how you can see the enclave being leveled, the Israeli government saying they're going to build a big concentration camp and they're going to herd 2.5 million people or 3 million people into that camp over the ashes of Rafah, and they're basically going to have a real estate bonanza in Gaza and they're going to develop it and they're going to take it. That's the Israeli government saying it. It fits the categorical definition of ethnic cleansing. Now, you know, Kirk was kind of going against that narrative. Now, you could view the actions of Netanyahu in the wake of the assassination a couple different ways, but it could just be damage control because of the tension that was going on. And there's a lot of heated denial about that tension, too. But it's very clear it existed. In Kirk's own words, it existed. So there's people who are gathering around the corpse of Charlie Kirk and gathering around the energy that Turning Point USA had gathered unto itself, who are delivering a false narrative about the situation in Kirk's life leading up to the assassination, and they're also going to be responsible for channeling that energy into the future. That youth, that future that he was gathering unto himself is now in control of people who are giving us a false narrative. Can be a few reasons for that. But they kind of all lead to the same place. Just like the plot of Watchmen. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of movies. I don't watch a lot of media. Like I mentioned, No Country for Old Men. That's a rarity. I very rarely watch nonfiction. I probably read nonfiction more often, but even that is incredibly rare. I'm so boring. I read fiction. I read news. That's pretty much my everyday. I'm looking, as I sit here, I've got 42 feet of printed books on shelves that I'm looking at all around the room, which is just a fraction of my literature. I don't pretend to have read it all, but I've surprisingly worked through quite a bit of it, just trying to understand things. I haven't really thought about the attempted assassination of Harper in a long time. I should revisit that, because it keeps coming up. Tim Coolican, Frank Vaughn, what pisses me off is that it seems like Charlie's death is being used by both sides of this partisan rift. Yeah. And the interesting thing is that the left is becoming even more unhinged, publicly calling for more people to get shot. So they're playing right into it. And then, in spite of the fact that Charlie went from university to university, just like Jesus went from hilltop to hilltop, talking about the gospel, Charlie went to... Hold on. Everything all right? Guppy? Okay. Clearly just dropped a book or something. He went from place to place. He gave the microphone to his opponents. He listened. He spoke. And the right seems to be channeling that energy into suppressing the left and that debate. And I'm not saying it's not necessary, because the left is out of control. These people are out of control. It's very true that they're engaged in domestic terrorism and they want people dead, but they're playing into it too. They're actually, both sides are fueling this thing, this collection of energy and this redirection, this channeling of it in a direction. It feels like it's getting out of control, doesn't it? It feels like it's a snowball collecting snow unto itself. It's an avalanche in motion, and people like us are standing in the way of it, about to be crushed. That's kind of what it feels like. There were 3 drones flying around the scene. You know, I've looked at planes, I've looked at drones, I've looked at the flights. I don't want to get into speculating on it just right now. What kind of garlic do you grow? It was a variety I developed. It started out, I don't even know what it was. But over the course of time, I figured out how to change it. So it ended up being called Northumberland. If you find any Northumberland out there in the world, you know where it came from. Oh, man. Oh, the chat broke again. Rogue, again, with the 30-06, doesn't always cause a mess. .55 grain accelerator used for varmints, and a 30-06 leads to a similar 22 inch. It doesn't explain what we see in terms of the ballistics. It doesn't explain it. So you can fuck around with the bullet all you want. You can screw around with the round. It's not making sense of what we see. You're not getting a bullet coming from where he was that's going to do what we see with any of the fiddling that you're doing with the round. Look at the video. Look at the impact. Look at the concussive force. Your idea is that the round could have just either been a high-powered round that passed through, and you can see the impact passing through, so it's not coming from the right spot, or it's a kind of a lob round because it's a low ball, and it just perfectly lobs this hole-in-one shot into his neck for them to find the bullet. Fiddling with the round coming out of the 30-06 doesn't fix anything. It just doesn't. I appreciate what you're saying, but it doesn't fix anything. This is not a minor event. Dorada. I'm going to try it. Mozowicz Patalis. Mozowicz Patalis says this is not a minor event. It's a turning point. Yeah. It's a pretty defining moment, which is why it has my focus. Well, everyone knows when you are a hammer, everything looks like a nail, but sometimes everything is a nail. Did you listen to Trump's speech at the UN? If so, what are your thoughts? I haven't listened to it yet. I've read some hot takes. It's kind of on the agenda for today. Yeah, tough rhetoric sounds good. You know, I want more action. I want more action. Let's say over 50% of the Americans came to the same conclusion as you. What would you expect them to do about it? Just make noise. That's all you got to do. Make noise. Go to places, film, ask politicians tough questions every opportunity you get, raise attention. It does work. What's the story on the SAS sniper? Wouldn't we like to know? What are we supposed to do when a majority of the citizens end up in agreements that our governments are compromised? The story of the SAS sniper is some guy stationed near the highway in Weyburn killed a woman and shot another guy's car. And as far as I know, as of sitting here, they don't know who did it. And someone asked me the other day why it hasn't got more attention. It's got quite a bit of attention, but it's kind of a fading thing. I think if it happens again, it's going to get a lot more attention because this is, it does appear random. It does appear that it was just somebody, some sick, godless prick who killed this poor young girl. Sadly, I'm just waiting to see if it happens again. But yeah, that's the story as of now. I don't think they've got anybody for that one. AI was strong in this assassination? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like I focus on what I saw live and what was available in the immediate aftermath. Just joined in. What did I miss? You can rewind it, Canada Goose. Rewind. Such a Generation X term. You can take it back to the beginning and you can watch. It's all still relevant and pertinent. Hi, Frank. Recently found the channel. I appreciate the takes. Common sense. God bless from South Vancouver. Thank you. And my condolences for living in South Vancouver. Beautiful place. Don't know about the politics. Belief in our healthcare system should be laid to rest. For sure, Deborah. It should be. Turning point. Why the logo changed considering its symbolism? Yeah, that lightning bolt. I know what you're on about there, Rogue. A Canadian going along with evil to get along with evil. This is a Canadian top virtue. Immediately after the assassination, TikTok had the real videos. He actually knew he was hit, stood up, walking to the left, knowing he was hit, and the danger came from the right. I don't know, man. That's not what I saw. And I'm talking within 10, 20 minutes. Like I was seeing that footage on repeat from accounts that I trust. Government propaganda. Hey, brother. You know where to get some of your garlic genetics if that doesn't pan out, Frank? Maybe from you. Maybe from our buddy up north. Thanks for keeping it going, man. I love those pictures every single year. You send me a picture of it. I love it. The camera to his left, maybe 15 to 20 feet, showed the truth. Yeah, actually, that's one thing. Candace Owens did cover that camera. She apparently spoke to the person who took the thing out, and she says she watched the footage. I don't know if you believe her or not, but she says she watched the footage and confirmed that there was no blood splatter out the back side. So if the round came from the front, how is there no blood on the back? How is there no splatter? The blood goes to the front. It really, I don't know how people can buy it. Doesn't matter what you do. You can't fiddle with the round, fiddle with the rifle, fiddle with the location, fiddle with magic bones and vests that don't exist. You can't make what we see happen. Period. Frank, every war is an ethnic cleansing. Every war has child victims, child soldiers, child shields. Why this one conflict has affected you this way is honestly something you should reflect on. I don't like kids getting killed or raped, man. I talk all the time about kids and gender reassignment and all the nonsense. I talk about how pedophiles get a slap on the wrist. It's an extension of morality, and maybe people just don't understand what morality is anymore. Maybe we've just lost it in the sea of this ethical swamp that we talk about. But to me, it's all the same. It's about having consistent morality. War is hard. And I applaud you for admitting that what you're seeing happening in Israel is actually killing tens of thousands of innocent children. I applaud that. My argument is twofold. One, if you're going to be overt in your support of that outcome, then you need to just tell the truth and own it. You're okay with killing anybody, with ethnically cleansing what's happening. You're perfectly cool with it. You own it and you think it's justified. That is an honest position to take. And you should take it. The second point is I live in Canada. And here in Canada, we've got hundreds of thousands of activists in this country, probably hundreds of thousands of activists in this country that are destroying our property, waving Palestinian flags, burning Canadian flags, chanting death to Canada, and they're getting rewarded by the federal government. I don't see the same thing happening with the Jewish diaspora that's here in Canada. I think 350,000 Jews live here in Canada. They're not doing those things. So one thing, I don't want to import that conflict here, which the Palestinian diaspora has done to this country. I'd like to see those protests shut down. I'd like to see order be restored, and I would like them to not be rewarded by the government for their destruction. The message from our federal government is that terrorism works if it comes from the right politics. But at the same time that I hold that view, I can't lie about what Israel's doing in Gaza. I can't do that. Does that explain it for you? It's called being consistent in your morals. Pragmatic on the one hand, but consistent with a moral application. Kevin Richards says, the chat skipped forward again. Just want to take a second and say thank you for being you. Thanks again. Saying this to all our great Canadian podcasters. And thank you, Kevin. Like, if you guys weren't here watching, I guess there wouldn't be anything I wouldn't be doing anything. It's kind of a mutual relationship. Binks, I appreciate it, the donate to Frank every month, but you're shilling harder than I do. I got a donate link. If you want to do it, you can do it. I'm not monetized on YouTube. There's going to be no super chats here. Go to the website, frankvaughn.ca, if you want to support. You can support monthly. You can support one time. You can do whatever you want. Money's not a barrier to entry. Everything I do is out there for everybody. The area is now called Northumberland Clark now in Ontario. I didn't know that, Hashim Ahmadi. I didn't know that. I'm not surprised. They're always, population dynamics are ever changing in Ontario, so I'm sure redrawing borders is something that's just going to keep on happening. Sadly, that young lady leaves behind her 9 cats who were her kids. Cats can't be kids. I hate that. That's a personal pet peeve of mine. Pets are not kids. I'm probably going to offend somebody in the chat, but don't call your pets your kids. It's not the same thing at all. They're furry rodents. I've got one that live in your house. They claw your stuff. They lick their asses. They're not human beings. They're not children. They're not kids. But all the same, I hope those cats find a home. I love my furry rodent. He's 14. I've had him since he was just this little thing that sat in my palm. I found him one day when I was at the farmer's market. He was probably less than 24 hours away from dead. His eyes were shut. They were so stuck closed because he was so dehydrated and emaciated, full of bugs of every kind. And I found that little bugger. And I took him into the back of my truck, and I let Amanda, my wife, watch the stall. And I cuddled that cat, and I fed him one kibble after another and nursed him back to health. And here he is 14 years later. Still being a pain in the ass. It's so sad when you see indiscriminate killing. Like, that lady was just driving her car. You got to be godless to just shoot somebody randomly like that. Dogs are dogs. Yeah, dogs are a whole other thing. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. You know, and Brenda says that she's got to run. I got to run too. I got a kid that I'm neglecting right now in front of the TV, and I just can't live with myself. So maybe I'll come back later. I don't know. Today's a weird one. There's stuff to do later. So, but I just had to get on and hopefully explain and dispel some of the bad takes. That's what they are. I'm Frank Vaughn, and thank you all for your time.